So guys, there was this YouTuber called More Ango, and he just did a video about Britt Baker being the devil. And, I really just want to say that, I just thought about my own theories and his theories, and I just wanted to do another video. But what I really want to say is that when I look at More Ango, this is the first time I checked out one of his videos, and honestly, he's very articulate, he's very factual, and also too he has a very charismatic voice. I know when I talk, sometimes I stumble over my words, I struggle with eye contact, but he's definitely done videos more professionally. So I definitely just want to say that I just want to say that I have a lot of respect for the quality of videos that he does and the quality of the Britt Baker video. And there's a couple of things that make me kind of rethink my own theory. And there's some things that he said, so there may be some overlapping. That, first of all, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was proving that he doesn't exist. Now, I'm just kind of paraphrasing. And Britt Baker just gave an interview saying that she's not the devil, and she kind of joked about it. So obviously, hidden in plain sight because she's lying about it. That's the first piece of evidence. The next thing is that when you look at Britt Baker, she's kind of complained about her career not being as good as it was years and years ago. Like, she was a big deal. She's not that much of a big deal. So obviously, with her being the devil, this would be a very strong revitalization. And then the other thing is that some people have said that, one thing she feels so that upsets her is Adam Cole. Like, Adam Cole not betraying MJF, Adam Cole maybe being a bit of a beta where he doesn't want to hurt MJF's feelings, and then also maybe him needing to be reminded that MJF is a very manipulative person. So, because kind of what it was that you had a heel MJF become a babyface MJF, and you have an Adam Cole right now that's a tweener, and they're trying to switch both sides really. But I think that what Britt Baker's probably going to do is remind Adam, remember what MJF was like really. So there's so there's a thing about setting up a character switch. And definitely she has motivations to push Adam to the top. One of them being that, remember, MJF screwed you over. Remember the Washington, D.C. show where it looked like Adam Cole was about to win, and then he didn't. And then the next thing is that, MJF was kind of a jerk to him prior to that point. And then the next thing that I would kind of say with Britt Baker is that she could kind of be like, I want to be on top again. That means I want to be king. We are king and queen of AEW. I get the women's title. I get the ROH women's title. And I get the women's TBS title, and then you get the AEW Men's Championship. So that way we're kind of like a dynasty, like a husband-wife dynasty. And also too in wrestling, you've never really seen that before, where you had a husband and a wife hold the women's championship and the heavyweight championship at one time. Definitely that's very prestigious. I don't think they did that with Triple H and Stephanie, but if they did, that would be, such a 20-year gap. The next thing that I would say about Britt Baker is that she's associated with very violent matches. So obviously she would be into doing violent stuff, like what she did with Thunder Rosa being covered in blood. It shows that she can be ruthless. The next thing that I would kind of say is that I heard the devil laugh recently on the AEW show. So honestly, to be very similar, to kind of draw a comparison, it did sound a little effeminate. And then the other thing is that it reminds me a lot of Uma Thurman in Kill Bill when she was talking, I think, to Sophie. She cuts her arm off, she kills the Crazy 88 and then Oren Ishii, and then she says that famous line, I want him to know that I want him to know, and other things like that to Sophie before throwing her down the hill. Like, she has the devil has a very muffled and feminine sounding voice, very similar to Uma Thurman's voice when she was wearing the yellow suit and then the yellow helmet, and her voice sounded a little muffled. It does kind of, there's a little similarity in the tones of the voice and then the articulation and how it sounds. It does sound like the devil's voice sounds a little feminine, even though there's some distortion. So definitely it could be a female. The other thing that I would kind of say is that I talked about motivations, and I also gave you some good points, but there's also some other things I want to say that, definitely in professional wrestling, I've never really seen a woman be in charge of a faction or also be like a mafioso. Because even though you have the Judgment Day, I kind of think that it's more of like an alpha female or a woman just kind of bossing around men. I don't really kind of see it as like a mafioso or like a or Mary Queen of Scots or just like a female like dictator or like I say mafioso is probably the best one. Just like you gotta hurt and do this damage to somebody. I don't really see it as violent. I mean, Rhea Ripley telling Damian Priest and Dominic to kind of bloody Rey Mysterio or do other like horrible things and stuff like that. I don't kind of see the same level of intensity with Rhea Ripley. So one thing I kind of like is that you have Rhea Ripley and Dominic, and they're trying to like spoof China and Eddie Guerrero, and also Rhea Ripley is kind of almost like an older sister, alpha female type of person. Like she's kind of like a little bit of like a Shelley and a Stan Marsh type of relationship. One's kind of like the you don't cross her type of thing. But if you kind of have Britt Baker and Adam Cole, you kind of see a little bit more of a Lady Macbeth type of thing. Like definitely somebody who's more mean, somebody who's a lot more cruel. And definitely there's a lot of stories in Greek and Roman mythology of a woman preparing her soldier or preparing her man for war, or even if you look at the Greek and Roman emperors, like sometimes their mothers or grandmothers would kind of be like, okay, well, my son's going to be the emperor and I'll teach him how to be ruthless and barbaric. So there's always that type of, the queen behind the throne, the person behind the throne, Rasputin to Tsar Nicholas. Or another great example is like in Django Unchained, I think Stevenson to Calvin Candy. So I think that there's always that. And then also that type of encouraging Adam Cole to be Machiavellian. So I kind of like how it contrasts. It would be a great contrast to Rhea Ripley and Dominic, and maybe in a way saying like, look at how we do it better in AEW. And then the other thing that I kind of said, like I think just to say that again, like we've never kind of really seen a female mafioso or really just like a violent female leader in professional wrestling, so it would be revolutionary. And I also think that like that with the reveal, like imagine the storytelling that you could kind of do with that. Like you kind of do something where Adam Cole is in inner turmoil, and then maybe Adam Cole has a match with Roderick Strong and other people in the faction. Like, I don't want to, like, that's not how I want to get to the top, really. And then eventually he turns heel. So there's a lot of things you can kind of do, really. And I also kind of think that, in the faction, you can have Roderick Strong, and then you can have like the two people that he's with, really, because you need to create new stars. And then also when you turn Adam Cole heel, there's a couple of things that if MJF wants to go to WWE, or he wants to retire and do acting, at least you have Adam Cole, and then you have somebody who needs to face the faction. And I would say that you'd have to do Swerve in the Embassy versus, Adam Cole and Britt Baker's faction. The Devil's faction, really, if MJF's not there, or you would have to even do, MJF versus Adam Cole to get the title back, which I think would be good if you had like a series of matches. Adam Cole wins, and then you have a heel Adam Cole versus the babyface MJF, and that would be a crazy match. And or even if you did something like MJF formed faction with the Acclaimed, MJF and the Acclaimed versus Adam Cole's faction, which is Adam Cole, Britt Baker, and Roderick Strong, and the two other people, and they can fight over the trios title. They can fight over the ROH tag team title if they kind of break that up, and then the AEW championship and the women's championship. Like they find maybe a woman to join the Acclaim and MJF. That could be Chris Statlander, or even like a Thunder Rosa, like somebody that's a good rival to Britt Baker. And I think that's also the other thing that you'll get is that it would revitalize the women's division. Now you have a top female be like the top heel in AEW, and then the other thing is that it may inspire other women to kind of stand up to Britt Baker. Like honestly, I would say look at Nyla Rose would be a great example, because Nyla Rose has personality. I think there's other women Like I wouldn't consider Hikaru Shida. I'm looking for people with good mic skills. Like I think Paige has WWE experience. You can bring Mercedes Monet, who has great like mic skills. But I would say too that can build up women. But you need to find women who can talk on the microphone, not just have what we call the Dave Meltzer matches. Because that's kind of been an issue in AEW when it's come to the women's division, is that there's really no good women storytelling, and I don't really see a lot of women on the microphone talking. And then I don't remember any conversation that Tony Storm or anybody's had. Like they need like kind of like, and I really think the only person on the women's roster, like the best talker, is Nyla Rose. So, and honestly, with LGBTQ and all that stuff. Definitely, if you want to do a faction and you have Nyla Rose, the Acclaimed, and MJF, that would be really interesting. Then you actually have a faction with a person who's LGBTQ and then also a person who's trans, and that would be very progressive. That would be a very avant-garde look for AEW. But I do think that all that would really work. So there's a lot of positives versus negatives. And I also just want to say, too, that this is a side thing. This is irrelevant. But I remember, like, when I was down at the Kia Forum, like, Nyla Rose actually reached out and saying hi to everybody. And I kind of felt very awesome. I felt very cool because, she was very nice. And then also, too, like, nobody was kind of, like, being homophobic to her or whatever. And then also she was doing a nice gesture because most wrestlers, like Sting and Ric Flair, other people would walk by and stuff like that. And it's not that they don't respect us. It's just that they have priorities. So I do kind of think that, for Nyla Rose and other people who want to kind of like sign autographs or say hi to people, I'm very happy that the respect is mutual. But I also think it would further send a message if you kind of have MJF and his faction with the Acclaimed and Nyla Rose versus Dr. Britt Baker, Roderick Strong and his faction, and Adam Cole. It would be a very, very progressive to kind of have so many LGBTQ, to have many LGBTQ, a trans person, MJF who's Jewish and ADHD. It would be a lot of just what AEW is about, is the misfits. Because as I said, if you put Nyla Rose in WWE during the Attitude Era, her name would probably be the Freak. If you put MJF in the Attitude Era, he would probably be, ADHD. He'll probably be another version of Eugene, be like kind of dorked around for his mental health issues. Then you put like Anthony Bowens, he would be like a sexual predator because of all the stereotypes you see in the Attitude Era, with what they did with gay and mentally ill and like when you think of trans people and how they're represented in WWE Attitude Era, you think of Sammy the Tranny, and Sexual Chocolate. So or you look at Bobby Lashley's sisters, like a cross-dresser, and also a transsexual. When you look at Sammy the Tranny. With the sexual chocolate thing. So I think that'll be a very, very progressive. And I think the last thing is returning to roots. Like a lot of people do talk about like how the women's division just fell apart really. Like Dr. Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa were really the talk of AEW, but nobody's really talking about the women's division. So you kind of make them on top. And then also the other thing too is that the Acclaimed worked well as the underdog. So if they're facing like a challenge like and MJF works well as an underdog to a title. So you're kind of getting back to those things that have worked. And then also you're trying to do something with Britt Baker and Adam Cole. Like I think that we also kind of look at that as Adam Cole, in his NXT days, when he had a title, he was a lot like, he stood out a lot more. Same thing with Britt Baker being the women's AEW champion. Like I think that all that works. And I think the other thing too is that when you look at Britt Baker's entrance, what's special about her entrance is she's surrounded by fire. So that can kind of give you a hint that it could be a reference to the devil because she's surrounded by fire. And I also kind of would say that, that the other big thing that I'll kind of mention is that I think, like as I said, there'll be multi-layered storytelling, as I mentioned before. But I also will say that when you look at the devil mask, what a lot of people don't realize is that it's a very Venetian type of mask, really. If you look at films like Eyes Wide Shut, obviously both men and women would be wearing the same mask. Like it's unisex. It's a unisex mask. And that's kind of what those Venetian masks are. Like obviously a man could wear that and a woman could wear that, and it could kind of come off. But most people would think that a man would be wearing that, but it could also be a woman behind it. So I do kind of think that there's so much that they can do with this. And I'm really, really excited. I do think if it's Britt Baker, it'll be great. And like I said, I think the top 5 people I would say is that number 1, it should be CM Punk. Number 2, I would say it should be Britt Baker. Number 3, it should be Adam Cole. Then I would say MJF is a number 4. And the number 5 person, it should be Swerve Strickland. It should be at least those 5 people if you want to do a good storyline. But I would say number 1, CM Punk, for the reason that obviously imagine the attention and controversy that would cause. But I do think Britt Baker is the second best option because that would subvert so many expectations. But that's like looking at looking at the video that I watched. That's kind of like all my beliefs for why I think it would be Britt Baker, why would it work, and why would it make AEW profitable, and all the good that it would do.